Hello and welcome along to Doz's Television Workshop. It's been nearly a year since I made a video, and that's not good enough really, is it? I've kept on top of the website, so if you follow the blog, link there somewhere down below, yes, good, you'll know that we have been busy and we've done probably best part of 50-60 projects since I last made a video. So yeah, there's a lot to see on the website. Go down there and have a look if you haven't. But I think it's time to exploit YouTube a little bit more this year. It does take a long time to edit the videos, and I'd much rather write on the website than edit a video. But yeah, well, let's go with it. It's very underexploited, and I see a lot of other people do marvellous work on YouTube. And in fact, I spend most of a Saturday afternoon scouting YouTube and watching other people do stuff, and I really ought to contribute, I think. So there we are. Right, well, for today's video, we're going to take another look at the Pi 169. If you look back in the history, you will see a video we did on this previously, just a basic overview. And again, look on the website. I'll stick some links up because this set we've had some history with it. It is a Pi 169 chassis, and its output transformer failed. The line output transformer, that's a flyback if you're in the States. The line output transformer failed, and I couldn't get a replacement anywhere. So I fitted, I think, a Philips 210 aftermarket transformer to it. Made some modifications so the circuitry was happy, and it's been very good. But about a year after I did the conversion, sadly, that transformer itself has developed a fault. So what's happening? Well, the transformer, when it warms up, we get a loss of EHT, which causes our picture to get bigger and then eventually disappear. Now, normally on a vintage television, when this happens, it can be a failure of the EHT overwind. And there's a couple of reasons why I think this might not be happening, but we're going to make some measurements and do some tests and then come up with a plan, see if we can mitigate what's going on. So normally what happens is, certainly with the 40s and 50s sets where you've got a line output transformer that's covered in pitch. In fact, hang on, I've got one here. Something like that. Ooh, that's a Bush TV22 transformer. It's actually a good one as well. But what happens is the pitch becomes slightly hygroscopic. If you look at that one closely, it's all cracked and horrible. But the pitch becomes hygroscopic, lets moisture into the winding. You know, there's a few thousand volts there. The insulation breaks down. You get a shorted turn. And that creates a load on the transformer. The EHT collapses. Generally then, the line output valve itself, that's a horizontal valve if you're in the States, horizontal tube, sorry, then draws a lot of current. The anode of that valve will then start to cherry up. It'll start to get so hot it glows. Not happening, I don't think, in this set. So that's something. So the winding could be going open circuit as it warms up. And not a lot we can do about that if that's the case. Other things that might be happening. Now, the aftermarket transformer has a built-in solid-state EHT rectifier. The original one for this set had a tube or valve rectifier. And in fact, the original 210 transformer would have had that. This is an aftermarket one. And technology moved on. It's got a solid-state rectifier in it, a diode. Now, if that diode is going up and saying, the reason why I think it's happening, because the fault occurs really quickly. If you sort of get moisture and shorter turns, you sort of get this slow degradation of EHT, which causes the picture to get bigger. It's not happening. It's very, very quick. We'll run it in a minute and I'll show you. But the this is so I reckon maybe one or two things is happening. Maybe that diode is failing. Now, it can fail in one or two ways. It could either go short circuit or open circuit. If it's going open circuit, again, not a lot I think I can do about that, which would be a shame. If it's failing short circuit, then on our final anode to the EHT connector on the tube, we'll have AC. We will have a sawtooth at 15.625 kilohertz. And the aqueduct of the tube and the final anode itself make a capacitor up. So maybe, obviously AC won't accelerate our electrons because they'll be whizzing back and forward, so we won't see a picture. maybe if that's the case, then we can just snip the final anode lead and put in a new rectifier. This is actually two rectifiers I bought from eBay, new old stock. They're rated for about 10,000 volts each. This set I know has got more than 10,000 volts. I think it's about 15,000, 16,000 volts EHT. So I stuck two in series, stuck a bit of silicon tube in the middle and injected some RTV in there, try and stop it fizzing, arcing over. We'll cut the anode lead, we'll put that in circuit, see if that solves the problem. I'm also going to do one other thing when we test the set. I'm going to put an extra turn on the line output transformer and look at the waveform. That will allow us to see whether the set is becoming more loaded, as if that diode is failing short, or maybe the overwind is failing short, or less loaded, the waveform will get bigger in the event of either the winding going open or the diode going open. That's a scenario I don't really want to see. We won't know, and I don't actually know if the stabilization inside the set itself will try and mitigate that situation that may be occurring. So we'll make a winding. I'll put an extra winding on the transformer. We'll put the oscilloscope on there, and we'll see if that waveform changes. I've got another camera set up over there on the bench, so that's good. Of course, if that transformer is faulty, well, no chance of getting another one. But what I have got is a new old stock Thorn jelly pot. Now this is the world's most reliable flyback or line output transformer in the world. These do not fail. Mark my words. Famous last words. It's a Thorn found in Ferguson, HMV, etc. Marconi phone. Not designed to work in a Pi or a Philips at all. So this will be an interesting substitution. It might be a job for another video. But let's run some tests now and see how we get on. Okay, so got the set hooked up to the pattern generator. We'll run a timer on my phone, see how long it takes for the fault to occur. Let's show you the fault. Okay, right. Going to take long enough to warm up, I think. Oh. "26 minutes, about 53 seconds. Let the clock run on a bit, but yeah, that took a while. It's a cold day, it's cold in the workshop, and yeah, there we are. Right, let's take it apart and see what's going on. Right, so after 20 or so minutes, set is still quite warm. Let's get it apart and find out what's going on. So, you'll notice, by the way, we've got some camera set up here. Got one looking in at sort of an angle. We've got the one above. Hello there. Yeah, right. That's forever going to be known as the big Clivo cam from now on, I think. And also I've got the old camera on the oscilloscope as well, Scopo cam, which, looking at its viewfinder, looks to be flickering horribly. But we shall have to live with that, and I've got a feeling it's because it's actually upside down. Right. Ooh. Okay. This is going to be a stubborn one. Come on. There she goes. Right. So there are 4 screws. One on each side. 2 on each side, sorry. And then the back just lifts away. Ooh, there we go. Right, expose the chassis, which has 2 pegs top, which just pull out our little bits of thread. and then hinge down to expose the set. Look at that, overhead cam's not doing much, is it? Let me just tweak that very slightly. There we go, lovely. So this is our Philips 210 output transformer. Here's our EHT lead, and these are our line output valve here, and the boost rectifier is there. So I want to get a wire just around the line output transformer, just to get an extra winding on there. So I thought I was going to use a clip lead. I don't think that's going to cut the mustard. So let me just reach down into the wire box. What have I got? Oh, that looks nice. That looks good there. Yep. So we just want maybe a turn, maybe 2 turns through the transformer just to feed the oscilloscope so I know what's going on. Right, so oh, it's all a bit warm. I want to point out there is an air gap between the mains. There's 1 turn and the set at the moment, and the set is being run on an isolation transformer when it is going, because it doesn't have a transformer, it's just a dropper resistor set, unlike the luxury of you American people. Right, need a pair of cutters. So cut that clean off. There we go. We shall just cut that there. Strip a bit of the insulation back. Lovely. Okay. Get my oscilloscope probe. Keep out of the way of the chassis a bit. This is all going to be a bit of a jury rig lash up. Okay, 1 clip on there. Oh, 1 clip on there. We don't want it touching anything really. Ah, that would be good, wouldn't it? Just to leave it hovering through the hole where the tube normally sits. Right, need to get an aerial to it. And my aerial lead is going to be too short. Let's get a little extension. Okay, right. Must apologise about the quality of the picture, by the way, from the generator. It's particularly rough at the moment. I need to reprogram all the frequencies on the generator. Ever since we've lost 800 megahertz and now 700 megahertz, the patterning's getting worse. I need to do something with it. Right, mains power is on. We are isolated again. I just remind people of that. Right, so we're drawing current. Now we just wait. So wait for our valves to warm again. Shouldn't be too long. Okay. Oh. Here's my 1 camera stop recording. Oh, look at that. We can see already on the oscilloscope that we need to turn the volts down a bit. So something's coming to life. Ah, we're just starting to see a picture. Right, and there is our line pulse. Okay. Oh, it's nice and big. Look at that. How many volts is that? So it's 20 volts per division. Scope probe isn't times 10 though. It's only times 1. So 2 volts per division. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 volts. Okay. So this frame valve's particularly soft. You can actually see that if I vary the brightness, you can vary the peak of that on the scope ever so slightly. That's quite good. Okay. Right, so we just wait for it to go wrong again. Time may pass. Thankfully, I did have time to make a little cup of coffee. Just have a slurp of that. Very nice cup of coffee. So we're just waiting for that EHT to fail again. We want to see if that peak on the oscilloscope trace gets bigger or smaller. I'm wondering if I speed the fault up a little bit with a hot air gun. Ooh, let me reach for the faithful hot air gun. Because I do know it's caused by it only happens when the transformer gets warm. So let me just plug in the hot air gun. It's the mains voltage slightly as I switch the heater gun on and off. Picture is still there. Our peak is still the same. There goes the EHT. Interesting. Our peak has absolutely vanished off the scope. So does that mean that our line oscillator has stopped oscillating? It must be. But in that case, why isn't our output valve overheating? I'm completely wrong with all of my theories. So this is good, really, because we have now a loss of line oscillator. But my valve isn't overheating. Why is that? Okay. Right, let's stop there and change a plan to find out what's really going on. Oh, hang on. Is that starting to cherry up? I'm just going to switch the lights off one moment. No. I don't think that's getting too hot at all. Interesting. Right, switch off the power and stop for a rethink. Okay, so we are looking at the schematic for the Pi 169. Here's the line oscillator. It's V3 PCF 802, which is this little fella just there. We've got some voltages we can check on there, and also if we look here, that's S, so that's the output from the second part of the valve, the pentode section. It's a simple sine wave oscillator, I think. If we look at that, S gives us a waveform, so we can scope that up. So let's check those voltages when the fault's happening and run the oscilloscope on that pin and see if we get that waveform. Okay. Right, so we want to connect our oscilloscope to one end of our 83, which is up here, right by the PL504 output valve. I don't really want to clip the scope probe in there because it's going to get really hot and bothered. So we can come round here somewhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to solder a wire onto the R83 and connect my scope probe between that wire and ground. I use that bit of wire we had on the output transformer a minute ago. So, okay, so it's that end of R83 that isn't on the PL. That is going to connect to my scope probe. That's scope probe's going to be grounded up there. Okay. And we need a meter. Now if I put that up there, I wonder if you'll be able to see it. So we've got a meter there. You know whether you read that or not. That wants to be grounded as well onto the chassis somewhere. That looks like a suitable candidate. Okay, mains going back on again. And switch on the front. There we are, we're drawing current. So let's wait for the picture to disappear once more and see what the situation is. I'm just going to have another look at that schematic, because I'll need those voltages to check. Okay, and there comes our waveform. Alright, okay, let's position that up a bit. At least synchronise crumbs. What a big waveform. There's my trigger level. There we are. Okay. Okay, the waveform looks quite good, really. Altering a bit as the picture comes up. Try and find a stable point to trigger on. It's jittering around a bit, that's not too bad. So how big is our waveform? Source channel 1, type voltage, yes please. It is 178 volts. That's fairly close to what we're predicting. In fact, if we go to the bottom there, yeah, 170 volts, smack on, look. Perfect. That's good. Right. Okay, so that's working. So now we just want to wait for the fault, really. I'm going to use a bit of hot air again. Still hanging in there at the moment. Right, while it's working, let's just confirm what's going on around the PCF802. So pin 1, I should have 165 volts. And I've got 190 volts. Pin 3, I should have 160 volts. Crumbs, I've got 184. Okay. Not interested in the heaters really. Pin 6, 110 volts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. $112, so that's near enough. Yeah, that is it. The rest is just heaters. So the DC conditions, HT looks a little high, doesn't it? We may investigate that in a minute. HT3 is where the rail is coming from. It's not going to go wrong now, is it? How ridiculous. While I'm here, I can see HT3 printed on the back of the board. Let's find out what that is. HT3 is 188 volts. What does it say in the manual? HT3, it can be a little bit higher because we're measuring it with a modern multimeter, and these manuals were printed for something to be measured with an AVO, which is a... Oh, we've gone. And interestingly, we've got a DC shift on the line oscillator, but it's still running. Okay, right, while the fault's there, I'm just going to move my scope, I'm just going to switch off and move my scope probe to the other side of R83 quickly, just in case that has gone open or is thermally intermittent. That's straight onto the PL504. Go there. Quickly switch back on. Okay. Right, there's our waveform, and the line stage is back up and running again already. There it goes, it's gone. And a DC shift there. Right. Oh, now, while it's faulty, let's measure those voltages again. I'm thinking they're going to be about the same. 170, so that one's dropped, possibly because the boost is not now no longer present. 160, yep. And which was the other one? That one there. 102. So they've all dropped slightly, as I'd expect, because there's no longer any boost. So that does look like the primary of the output transformer is failing open. That's disappointing. Right, let's scratch our heads and have another think. Okay, I've been and scratched my head, and I don't think we've got enough data to work out what's actually happening yet. So I've sort of gone back away. So I've still got the scope connected to the line oscillator, but I've gone with my original assumption. So I have, in fact, this was the final anode lead. I've cut it and I've put my diode in. That way we'll see if this diode is failing short or open, or what's going on with it, or maybe it's the transformer. We just don't know. So the anode cap, rather than being connected to the tube, is connected to the EHT meter here. So this is the bit where the internet explodes, of course, because we're going to have sort of 16,000 volts around here. Yeah, and this is where they say, oh my goodness, you're going to die. And I'll just explain why I'm not going to die. This power supply from this line output transformer is not capable of delivering enough current to kill me. It's capable of a sort of milliamp or two. Now, it's going to take at least 10 to stop my heart. So we're way shy of that. It's going to frighten me, and, you know, I'm more likely to do some injury to myself banging my head, getting out of the way of it, or something, than that electric shock will ever do to me. However, I don't want to go there, so let's not mess about, and let's not come into contact with it. So that's the answer. Right, the power's going on. So let's wait for the set to warm up and see what readings we get. Okay, there comes the line oscillator. And here comes our EHT. 5,000, 10,000, 11, 12. Okay, it's going to steady on about 12,000 volts. That's okay. I suspect it's reading a little bit low because there's no aqueduct capacitor in there. Right, now all we've got to do is wait for the fault to occur. Our EHT is rising slightly. I've just noticed we're 20 minutes in and we're at 16,000 volts. So that's interesting. I wonder if our fault has in fact occurred and our diode has broken down and putting the external diode in has solved the problem. I'm just going to leave it running for another few minutes. We're not seeing that DC shift in the line oscillator that we did previously. Let's just leave things going for a minute. Whoa, 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 whoa. Well, that was nearly 20,000 volts. Let's just do that again. Whoa, there goes the DC bias. And that's 20 kilovolts. Okay. Right. That's far too much EHT. Okay, let's stop there and scratch our heads again. Right, that came as a bit of a surprise. As the set warmed up, we saw about a 2,000 volt increase between about 14 to about 16,000 volts. Now that could be down to just the set warming up or slight variation in mains voltage. Not concerned about that. What I am concerned about is when that fault manifested itself, we saw our line oscillator shift again and a huge gain in EHT. That rose to 20,000 volts. Obviously, I think that's why the diode, which isn't rated to that inside the transformer itself, is flaking out at that point, giving us no EHT or just AC on the anode, thus causing the picture to vanish. But yeah, that is very interesting. Now, I've got a good idea what's causing that, but it's a job for another day, really. So, and another video, yeah. If you think you know what's causing it, leave something down below in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you in part 2. Thanks for watching. Right, sound's running this time. Pictures and sound, terrific. Year, in fact. And stop scratching your ear, twat. Right, and last time. We're on the 3rd of January today. So no, it's not 2nd. In So It Begins. Now I remember why I hate doing videos. That anode is not overheating. I haven't pressed record on the sound, have I? For sake. Cut.